There it is.
Yo, it's your man Jam C.
Yo, it's your favorite Republicans, Republican Lou. What's popping, everybody?
All right, and we are the Vocal Squad. And as you can see, we have a guest today, everybody. We have a guest today. Our guest today is Ardwin Dean Way. Shout out, what's up, Dean?
What's going on, family? How are you?
Yo,
We're
so
good.
we
I'm good.
wanted
I'm
to
good. I
have
can't complain.
we
That's
wanted
good.
to
That's
kind
good.
of have this conversation. As you can see, his title is he's a retired police officer, and with today's climate, with ISIS running the streets, and you know
Yeah.
George Floyd and all those other Rodney King. There's always been some type of division between the community and police officers. And we have someone who was in law enforcement who retired, and now you can kind of hear from his perspective of why some things happen or why things, he can't speak on every officer, every ill stuff that happened out here in the world because
Mhm.
that's crazy for him to answer for everybody, but just his perspective and how he see things and why things happen the way that they happen. So we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna have a conversation with the folks.
Absolutely.
And we ain't
Absolutely. And it
snitching.
also, yeah. And it also gives you some context on things that we may not know because if you don't have like family members that are in law enforcement, like immediate family members, we don't know what they deal with and what they face with day to day. So on this show, we hope to peel back some of the layers and see, we get to see from both sides.
Agreed. Agreed.
Get what I'm saying? So Dane, introduce yourself to the world who don't know you.
Again, my name is Ardwin Way. Most of my friends call me Dean. Um, I've been in Irvington as a police officer for over 25 years. I also was a correction officer for my first 3 years in law enforcement. And I recently retired over 2 years ago, and now I'm actually the deputy police director in Irvington.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
now a deputy,
pretty illustrious career for less than 30
yeah,
years. Sound like 30 years and you're out of there.
Yeah, I've definitely been
yeah.
blessed, I must say. And I started early, so that's another
Okay.
blessing. Yeah.
What made you go into law enforcement?
A friend of mine, had I went to college for about a year and a half. Um, I was trying to get a scholarship, but I got injured, and that kind of just went out the window.
Hmm.
So I came back home. Grew up in the projects in Newark. Kind of came back home, trying to find myself, trying to do different employment. Tried to get into the post office. Started working for the housing authority, and I was recently engaged. So I was, and my fiance had got pregnant. So I really had to start focusing on my career and trying to get my family started. So a friend
Hmm.
of mine who I grew up with, who mentored me during my high school days in basketball, he was a cop. And he said, yo, man, if you're really trying to, get something started with your family, start your career, he's like, I think you'll be a good cop. You always had your head on straight, you from the so-called hoods, so to speak, so you know how to handle yourself. You've been around the block. You kind of, you got your wherewithal about you and stuff like that. And I've always, at that time, kept myself physically fit. So he told me, he think it'll be good. So he kind of told me, hey, this is when the tests come out. Try it. If it don't work out, see what happens. And so I took his advice and I took the test. And unfortunately, I got disqualified actually for
Wow.
being a cop. Yeah, during the initial process, I forgot to put down a job that I had in high school, so they disqualified me for withholding information. It wasn't on purpose, but it
Mm.
was just something that I kind of mentally missed to put on my application. And because again, that was a high school job. But anyway, corrections end up picking me up. So I started my career, in corrections down in Jamesburg. as a correction officer at the juvenile detention center. And a couple of years after that, Irvington called me back. So I was actually living in Irvington at the time. So it only made sense for my commute. Um, and because I'm only been there for a couple of years with corrections, so I said, you know what? Since I initially wanted to be a cop, I said maybe this was God's plan for me to learn the corrections first, mature a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, because again, I was still young. I was still in my early 20s, which it ended up being, I think it ended up being a blessing to take that route, because I learned a lot in corrections that they really don't teach you being a police officer. So I became, so I changed over, became a cop in Irvington, and retired 2 years ago.
So did they tell you that the reason why you were disqualified, that you forgot some
Yeah,
information? Did they say that? Okay.
they
Okay.
actually, yeah, they told me. And my recruiter, my investigator, he did all he could. He still went back to the job. I was working at KFC. He went back to the job, talked to my supervisor, let him know that I wasn't fired. I only left the job because I went off to college. So there would
Mm-hmm.
be no reason for me to disclose the information. But whoever was making the decision, um, and it'll kind of you'll see fast forward how this all kind of comes together.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and so like I said, the investigator still did his due diligence. He went there. He let the chief at the time know, hey, this young man just forgot to put it on there. There would have been no reason for him to put it on there because I talked to the manager. They said he was a good employee. The only reason he left the company was because he went away to college, and there was no issues with him at all. However, it was up to the chief, and the chief still said, well, I don't, he didn't put it down the first time, so I don't care what it is. We're just going to disqualify him, and that
Wow.
was his choice. And
Mm-hmm.
they went on. They moved on to the next person.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. So let me ask you. This has always been my uh, thought process when it came to police, and why we had so many, I guess, discrepancies or some ill will against the police, or maybe why some police officers police the way that they do. I've always felt as though people that lived in that neighborhood should police that neighborhood, right? Because
I
they
agree.
understand the community. You bring people that don't understand that community, and then they just start doing all kinds of goofy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Being too aggressive, um, shooting before, asking questions or understanding the scenario or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
do you think that makes sense that people from the community should police that community?
Or should at
Absolutely.
least be in law enforcement. Yes. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And in most, and again, this is about education, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving you guys the inside information that most of the public do not know, and they do that on purpose. A lot of the times they withhold information. This is so we can all be against one another and us as
Mm-hmm.
a community not come together. So it's done on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but because all of this stuff, information is public information. It can be told to the public, but it's withheld because they want people to believe what they want people to believe. They don't want to change their perception. So most of the time, when you do get hired, they have to hire people from that community. For most municipalities are like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, after a certain amount of time, you can then move to whatever community you want as long as you're in within that state. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you my example. So when I lived in Irvington, I couldn't apply to Newark because I didn't live in Newark. Because
Okay.
I lived in Irvington, I had to apply for Irvington, right? So when I first get the job, I'm an Irvington resident, so I'm from the community.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after a year, unfortunately, after a year, I can then move out of Irvington, which most
Mm-hmm.
police officers end up doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's when a lot of times when a disconnect happens. because you're no longer of that community. So that becomes where you have that disconnect from that environment. Now, cops do it for a lot of different reasons. For safety reasons, um, they do it because their lifestyle changes. You know, they can afford to live, let's say, in a better,
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, whatever the case may be. Um, so they do it for different reasons. However, we've seen, at least I've seen over the time, when you're of the community and you have a stake in that community, yes, it definitely helps when it comes to how that officer is gonna, do their day to day, job, because now it becomes a lot different on the consequences of your actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at the situation like George Floyd or other incidences, and then once they kind of you figure out, okay, that person is not from the community. Sometimes that doesn't always, make it black and white that that's going to change the scenario. However, when you're from the community, you have a different thought process.
Correct.
So I'm just gonna, so I'm just
Yes.
gonna, so I'm gonna just lay it out for you so you can kind of understand. If let's say me, right? If I was when I was in Irvington, if I was to shoot an unarmed man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's gonna be all over the television, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's gonna see my face. They're gonna know who it is. But now I have to go to church on Sunday. Now my kids have to go to school with those same kids
Correct.
who. So it's a little bit different. So now I understand all my actions can now be a reaction to them.
Mm-hmm.
My wife shopping at the local supermarket, and people walking around like, "Isn't that your husband that shot that young unarmed black man or just unarmed man?"
Mm-hmm.
It's different, right? It's a different mindset you have to have when you understand the consequences can touch home.
Mm.
I That's just my belief.
Okay.
But when you're not from the community, now you can go home to your community, and yeah, it might be on TV, but you don't have to worry about your kids and people. It's a little bit different
Correct.
because that's going to be that happened in that community to that person. Now, when you're in the gym, same thing. You went to the local gym. They're looking at you like, "Come on, bro, what happened? How could you do that?" So now
Yeah.
your world starts to shrink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand there's consequences. So it's a lot of things that, it's not black and white that it'll fix everything, but there's certain things you know, that should be changing now that to keep officers in the community in which they serve.
Gotcha.
Because I
Gotcha.
think I think that definitely helps. And it goes back to culture, right?
Correct.
In Irvington, we have it all. Everything is there. We have every
Mm-hmm.
type of community that you want to talk about. We come in contact with people from every walk of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we see how different cultures, you know, behave. We have to adjust to those cultures. And I'll give you an example. I remember the first time I went to, let's say a Muslim home, right? I mean, it was very, religious, where I couldn't even talk to the woman. Like the husband was like, "You
Mm-hmm.
can't talk to the woman unless you're with me." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, sir. There was a call about a domestic dispute. I don't want to talk to her in front of you because
Mm-hmm.
she may tell me the truth while you're standing there. But now
Mm-hmm.
I can't let my ego, get the best of me and be like, I'm going to talk to your wife. I don't care what you say." Now, a normal situation, that's probably how I would have handled it. Like, wait, no, you're not going to dictate what's going on. I got
Mm-hmm.
to talk to her. I'm going to talk to her. But because
Mm-hmm.
it was a cultural thing, it was a religious thing. I had to step back a little bit and now explain a little more and be like, "Listen, I can't leave here until I know that she's okay." And now we had to have that conversation. Of course, he took his stance, but it wasn't a stance he was taking. Well, I'm not respecting your authority, nothing like that. It was, this is what I do in my household. This is how things are, and now we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do this, which, we came to a mutual understanding. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
because if I didn't understand the community, or I was just all speaking out of ego, now we would have been combative, because now I'm simply trying to tell him, well, I'm the law and this is what you better do, and so forth and so on. Now it becomes a battle between me and him, instead of me just getting there and figuring out what needs to be done. You know what I mean? Is there a crime? Was there something committed? So forth and so
Mm-hmm.
on. Instead of blowing up into something totally different, right?
But I
So
think that,
that's
not to
good.
cut you off, but I think a lot of police, not from what we see, right? The internet is dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
As well as the media, is dangerous, right? They always show where a police officer may be, like you said, their ego may get in the way and be like, "Hold up, I'm here to I'm the police. You gotta listen to me," and get real aggressive with the whole situation. But why you saying that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't think how challenging a job that you have really is. Like having to be culturally sensitive and living in such a diverse city. You understand what I'm saying? That part, I never even thought about that part. That's crazy. Okay.
So
Because I
that's
mean,
what brings me to one hold on there. That's what brings me to one of my questions. And it said, like, what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding that we have with police when it comes to police, and how can we be educated in situations like that?
first of all, I believe this. I'm speaking for me, and I speak for a lot of cops that I do know. It's all about your belief system. It starts with your belief system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you believe that police officers are exist to make your life more difficult, then there's going to be it's going to start off a bad situation. You know what I mean? Like it's going to start off
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because a lot of times, when I was in patrol, I would pull a car over, and as soon as I get to the window, I'm being cussed out. Oh, you ain't had it's else to do, what all this stuff. And I was like, and sometimes, most of the time, I wasn't a traffic guy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I still did my job. So if I saw
Mm-hmm.
somebody do something, crazy, make a U-turn on a busy street, whatever, blow a red light, whatever, I wasn't over aggressive with that, because I came up where I made mistakes too, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to do my job, where I'm going to stop the car. I'm going to let you know you did a violation. And most of the time with me, you got a ticket based on how the interaction with, because I have discretion.
Gotcha.
I can say, hey, I told you about the red light that you blew. You didn't hit nobody. Nobody was
Mm-hmm.
injured, but I just wanted to stop you to let you know I saw it. Please be careful, slow down, pay attention. And I still did my job.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write you a
Mm-hmm.
ticket. I
Mm-hmm.
still did my job. So in case the supervisor saw it, in case somebody else saw it and said, hey, that cop saw that car blow a red light and didn't
Yeah.
even stop him. You know what I mean? Because you don't
Mm-hmm.
know who's around, who sees what. But they saw that I pulled the car over. I got your attention, and I'm able to tell you what you did wrong. And now you get to move on. And hopefully, in your mind, you're like, yeah, that cop could have wrote me a ticket, but he didn't. He gave me a chance, or gave me a warning, and let me go. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
helping change the perception of who we
Definitely.
are, right?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I get to the car and it's, why you pulled me over, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, well, I pulled you over for this. Please let me have your paperwork, and then I write the ticket. And sometimes I hand it to him. I said, sir or ma'am, I wasn't going to give you a ticket. But because you gave me all that, this is the reason why you're getting it. Because I was just going to give
Mm-hmm.
you a simple warning and let you go. But because I became a mother ever and you calling me out my name, that's the reason. But I say
Gotcha.
that because sometimes we already have this perception.
That is true.
No,
So
you're right. You're right.
we already tense. We're already, before we even know why they're pulling us over, we're already ready to go at them. Right? This is my chance to tell this cop off. This is my chance to say what I wanted to say to this person. or that person, or so on. So I go back to say, it's your belief. If you believe that we're here to make your life harder, it's going to be, our interactions are already going to start off bad. And then
Bad. Gotcha.
on the flip side, the same thing with us officers. If we think everybody is a criminal, if we think everybody is out to do bad, then it's going to be bad on our end too. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to approach
Mm-hmm.
people and give them a chance to prove who they are first. At least give them a clean slate. Now, I'm not saying you
Mm-hmm.
don't be aware of your surroundings and you don't protect yourself, you don't put yourself, but sometimes it's just how you come off, how you talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning,
Mm-hmm.
man. How are you? Officer, what did I do? Now, if I gave you some BS, you can always hit me back. But I say I learned this from correction. That's why I say I believe it was the best route for me to go. Because in corrections, all you have is this and this.
Right.
You
Right.
can't
Right.
fight everybody. You don't have no gun in there. So you gotta win with this and with this. You gotta be able to talk your way
Mm-hmm.
out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and but in there, most of the people, and we understand that some people get wrongly accused and things like that. But for the most part, those people you're dealing with people that did wrong in
Mm-hmm.
some place, where they got incarcerated
Mm-hmm.
and now they're in jail. So there everybody, you already know what everybody is about, right? Now, but still,
Mm-hmm.
they're not bad people, they're not evil, right? They made mistakes, so they did wrong things, and now they're in a situation where now you can say, all right, all your freedoms have been taken. What type of person do you want to be? What type of person are you now, or who do you want to become? So learning that, I learned more to, just really take people as they are. You understand what I mean? And then just kind of let them prove who they are to me, and then I react off of that. I don't just
Gotcha.
assume, you know, because when you assume, that just puts a whole lot of things in it that's really not there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey, then
I,
you might have been the officer that pulled me over in Irvington one time, in Irvington Center, and I already knew my license was messed up, so I just stuck my hands out, get ready for the Chanel bracelets. I was getting ready for the Chanel bracelets, and the officer said, "You know what, man? You'd be better off just paying these tickets or paying the fines that you owe,
yeah.
versus every time you get caught driving on suspended, you get more. The fine get higher and higher, right? You
Higher.
better
Yeah.
off just paying it off." And from that day forth, I just got my license and just flew straight after that. So if it was you, thank you. But if it wasn't, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
But
but but all
let
it
me let me
and
ask let
just
me
like
ask.
that, just conversation just can change things, and that's what we
I
owe each
agree.
other that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So let me ask you this, Dane. Do you think? And I know this is it's not a dumb question, but it's a question that I need to ask. Do you think in the urban community is racial profiling?
In the urban community,
Yeah.
see,
I
that's
mean, from based on your experience.
it's hard. It's well, if you're gonna say it's racial profile, it depends on who it's gonna be racially profiled for, right? Now you can't
Mm-hmm.
say if it's a majority, you know, black community, then how can you say it's racial profiling when
Well,
you're
depend
a
on the
part of this
officer.
community? Hmm?
Well, depends. It depends on the officer, though.
No, but you missing
I
his
would
point,
Depends
think.
on.
Bill.
Well,
You
my
missing his
point.
point.
The point
Because
is
everybody in the community is one color. So how could you be
I
right
racially
got that.
profiled?
for the
No,
majority.
well,
So
no, well, you have Irvington. What you just said, Irvington is you got a Haitian community, you got a Latin community, you still have Asian community, and you have maybe not white, but you have like they may be Ukraine or what have you. So it's a multitude of people, and even the police is diverse. So
right.
that's the reason why I asked that.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's just something that I think people kind of always throw out there. But I have that same thought process. Is like I don't understand how people can feel like it's racially profiling, Now I can say that from the Caucasian standpoint, because when I worked
Mm-hmm.
narcotics, whenever I saw them, they didn't fit. They didn't fit in the neighborhood. You know how when Sesame
Right.
Street and they say
Right.
who
Yeah.
don't belong here, pointing
Mhm.
out
Yeah.
what doesn't belong. Like you stand out like a sore thumb. Like so, I'm going to automatically think you're here to buy drugs because this ain't
Yeah.
your street. You on Ellis Avenue. There be no reason you around here. Now and again, sometimes I've had Jewish guys drive down, and I found out they're the landlord. But my
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
first instinct was, yeah, I see a white man driving down this street. That's suspicious to me.
Mm-hmm.
That is suspicious. So but now if I just only use that one thing, him being a Caucasian, then that's racially profiling. But now I'm
Okay.
gonna,
Gotcha.
so now now I have to say, okay, that drew my attention to him, but that's not I'm not gonna pull him over just because, oh, it's a white man in a van driving down the street. Now if he's slowing down and he pulls up to the drug
But
dealer,
that's what they do,
and
though. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean,
Yeah.
you slow down, now you gave me something else to
Mm-hmm.
on top of your race. It wasn't simply your race, but you gave me another thing to be suspicious of. Now,
Gotcha.
if I pull you over, I wasn't just pulling you over because you were Caucasian, because you was interacting with something. Now you could have been asking for directions. You could have been telling these guys to get off my porch. Now I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I only know
Mm-hmm.
what I see. I have this
What
factor,
you
and
see?
I have this suspicion, right? I have a factor
Mm-hmm.
is your race. Your race is your factor, but the suspicion is you pulling over, you know, on a street where there is drug activity, and you pulled over
Mm-hmm.
to the drug dealers that I know, who I see are actual drug dealers. So now I put that together. I pull you over. Now the
Gotcha.
interaction happens. So
God,
now
that makes
you're
sense.
Gotcha.
so of course you was just there to tell these guys, hey, can y'all get off my porch? I own that apartment. I mean, I own that building, and my tenant is telling
Mm-hmm.
me I'll be hanging out there. Now I don't know this, and now you pull off.
Mm-hmm.
I pull you over down the street. That's when the interaction happens. So now
Gotcha.
I wouldn't be mad if he thought that I was racially profiling him, but I'll explain to
Mm-hmm.
him why I pulled you over. Whether you accept my reason or not, I can't control that. But I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
hey man, this looked odd. Oh well, I was
Yeah.
just telling them, okay, well I couldn't hear that from my police car,
Gotcha.
Mhm.
a block away. But
Mhm.
that's your reason. You say and that's enough for me to say, all right, go ahead about your business. Or if
Mm-hmm.
now if it escalates, I smell marijuana, or there's other factors in there, then that's something
Mm-hmm.
different. That was all it was, and you gave me a good reason of why you was there, and I have no other reason to think that wasn't the truth. Then you go on your plate, you go on your way. But that's not going to change how this man believes he was just
Yeah.
pulled over, or the reason why.
Gotcha.
That doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
change. But
No, I think
Mm-hmm.
if
that.
I
No,
go ahead.
sorry for cutting you off. That just gives. Oh man, I don't know why this just is like a epiphany in a sense. So if I'm in Short Hills or I'm in uh, Milburn and all those Summit and all those areas, no wonder they looking at me crazy when I drive by because I stick out like a sore thumb. Why am I
There you
here?
go.
They want automatically. Why are you up here? You understand? We know you don't live up here, so what you doing up here? And so that
And
that's,
Well,
you
they,
wouldn't
well, they
you wouldn't
only
be a
know till they
good
run your
cop.
plates. Yeah.
But you wouldn't be a good cop if that didn't stand out to you. Somebody
no.
that just
Yeah.
doesn't belong. You know what I mean? And again, it's not all about race all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I give you another perfect example. Remember back in the day, y'all all close to my age. Remember back in the day, the van with the clowns in it that was snatching up
Yeah,
kids.
the white van.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that. Now, if a cop was, let's say, any grammar school in North, right?
Hmm.
Predominantly,
Mm-hmm.
African American schools, predominant. Now, if you seen a man sitting in the van outside and he was white, and the cop rolled by and didn't even give him no attention, he ain't doing his job. But because he might
Yeah.
offend this man, because he might offend this guy. He might that man might feel offended because he stopped him because he's a white man sitting in a van. Do your job. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
sir, what are you doing
Mm-hmm.
here? You stick out like a
Mm-hmm.
sore thumb. Why are you sitting in front of a school? Do your kids go here?
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
again, it's just asking a question. Now, yes, he might be offended by it, but what if that's the guy that we've been looking for? Maybe he's the guy. But we can't get
Absolutely.
past, our hunches. We can't get past things that stick out that we can't simply. Now, again, it also depends on how you approach it.
Correct.
You don't just become a accusatory like, oh, you because you're in this neighborhood, you're gonna break in somebody's car. Because I remember back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and before I moved to Irvington, years before, you couldn't come to Irvington with sneakers on.
I was about to say that. You
They
can wear
called it,
sneakers.
yeah, they said it was burglary tools, whatever. And they said, you know, like follow kids off into the North line or the Hillside line or whatever to get them out of Irvington. And I heard, I never experienced that, but I've heard other people say that's how it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's a little bit different. That's a little bit really targeting certain. Now, if you just have a conversation with, hey, kids, where you going? We going to a party, or I'm going to see somebody. If you have a good enough reason, okay. And I can still pay attention to where you going. Sit back, watch you go wherever you going. Because I used to have the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. They used to do it to me in Maplewood all the time. Because I used to work at a
Yeah.
golf
They.
course up in Maplewood, and I used to ride
Mm-hmm.
my bike from North all the way up to Maplewood to do caddying. And as soon as
Mm-hmm.
I hit that
Mm-hmm.
Maplewood line, the cop used to be like, "Hey, where you going?" I show him my little tag from my little card from the Maplewood golf course. Hey, I'm just going up there to caddy, and he'll be like, "All right." And he used to basically follow me from wherever he saw me all and made sure I got all the
Wow.
way there. He was like a
Wow.
police escort, and I didn't
Right.
mind because I was like, "Hey, I know I'm gonna be safe.
Because
I
you
ain't
know you
gonna get
wasn't doing
robbed."
anything. Yeah, and it
Yeah, I know I
made
wasn't doing
exactly,
nothing.
exactly,
But now when I got
exactly.
home and I would tell my grandmother, she was pissed. She was mad about it. But I didn't let her experiences from the '60s and all that stuff affect me.
You.
I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it like, hey, he ain't say nothing bad to me. He didn't call me out my name. And then every time he saw me on the weekends, I go up there. I went up there every Saturday and Sunday morning. When he saw me, he already knew where I was headed, and he met me
Right.
there. And I used to wave, and then we end up talking, and hey, where you coming from? Hey, I come all the way from Newark, and blah blah blah. And then we started having a little conversation because he knew I wasn't who he was looking for.
Got you.
And
Got you.
but
Got you.
without that dialogue, now it could have been a bad. I could have, got angry and again my ego and let whatever and
Mm-hmm.
go at him and call him all kinds of names and all that stuff. And it could have been a bad situation.
Yeah, I
But
I
fine,
agree.
got you.
I mean, he's doing his job. And if that's what you want to do, follow me. By all means, waste your time following me.
I know that's
Yeah.
right.
If that's
A quick question. What pointers would you have to someone who is thinking about following the same career path that you did? How would you advise somebody, or would it just be just cut and dry, like the guy told you? Hey, the test coming up, go take the test. You understand what I'm saying? What advice would you give somebody that want to go into law enforcement?
um, what I tell people is we're not looking for perfect people. So a lot of times people, they think you have to be this super person or this high intelligent person or you know, we're at least now because I do and I remember I told you to kind of come full circle when I was talking about I got
Mm-hmm.
disqualified. So like
Mm-hmm.
now I'm a part of the hiring process with Irvington. So I'm seeing the applications, I'm interviewing people, and I see people make mistakes. And now I'm not as hard on them because some
Mm-hmm.
things they may not have really understood. Um, there's people that did have missing things that I gave other opportunities to because I've been in that
Mm-hmm.
situation, right? And
Got
I've
you.
and I've again made mistakes. And I'm not. It don't matter who gets hired for me. So I'm not trying to get to somebody, because that's the excuse I got. Oh, they was trying to get somebody, so they had to eliminate somebody to pull somebody up. whatever. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what that do, but all I knew was my situation was my situation. But at the end of the day, it fell on me. I didn't do what I was supposed. I didn't put down what I was supposed to put down. I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they made jobs after high school, but that was on me. So I'm not going to put that on anybody. That's a mistake that I made. But I made sure I didn't make that mistake. I made sure I paid attention and read everything and was clear, after that, because that could have cost me from having a law enforcement job. Period. Right. But again, now I'm in this position now that I allow people. But again, back to your question, I don't. Again, we're not looking for perfect people. Of course, you can't have a criminal record. You got to have certain things in place. But if you are a person that is trying to better your community or trying to find a way to uh, help, be a help to people, and you really haven't figured that out yet, you don't know if you should do mentoring, you don't know if you should do counseling, you don't know if you should get into. This is a good field to get into, and I say that because you meet so many great people being an officer. I mean,
Mm.
people who want to just do right, who want to live right, and a lot of them just can't. There's nothing that they can do about it. And if you're just that type of person, but you don't really know what yet, but you just have this helpful spirit, and that you don't mind talking to people. And the main thing is that your mind is stronger than your emotions. Because
Mm-hmm.
I ask anybody if your emotions are stronger than your mindset, don't become a cop. Please don't. We don't need you in
That's
this field.
important too. Wow.
That's
Yeah,
very
that's
important.
important. Yeah.
Very important. Because if you haven't established that yet, once you get this gun and badge and this authority, you're gonna abuse it. Because somebody's gonna piss you off, somebody's gonna get under your skin, and your emotions are gonna lead your actions and not your mind. And
Mm.
that's where things go far left. So a lot of people think putting the badge on gives you courage or it's going to take you out of your shell. That's not what you want to do, because a lot of times
Gotcha.
it's going to put you in a place where you're really not ready for. You know what I mean? Because you're going to
Mm.
be tested. You're going to be tested. It's just it comes with the job, right? But you got to be able to control those emotions where you can't take everything personal. You have to understand your job is to help people first, and you got to put
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
yourself and you got to put your them before you. So if I got to stand out in the rain and make sure, that's what I got to do. I got to get wet. I got to be tired. If I got to chase somebody down the street, I can't get mad because they ran. I can't take that personal.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job, is to chase them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's their job to try to get away. So you can't be mad at what they're doing,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to get your emotions in check once the situation calms down. If we got into
Gotcha.
a fight, boom, 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 we going at it. Once them handcuffs come on, ball game is over. They can't protect
Gotcha.
themselves. It's over. But you got to be able to stop yourself. You got to be able, and you got to be able to stop your fellow officers too, and be able to stand
Mm-hmm.
on that. It may not be appreciated. It may not be liked at that heated moment, but you got to be able to say, "Hey, man, listen, I did that for you and for me." Because if anybody saw it, if anybody, now I got to justify why I allowed you to do, what you did, and not everybody is able to do that. To be able to
Gotcha.
check
So to
yourself
be
and to be able to check each other.
be accountable for one another. Okay. Got you. Got you.
Absolute.
I got.
That blue wall thing, it's not, it ain't what it used to be, thank God. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
about protecting
Mm-hmm.
the wrong person. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the blue wall, the blue wall we trying to put up is different. We're trying to protect the good ones and throw the other ones over the wall. Whoever
Gotcha.
don't want to do
Gotcha.
right, no, you on the other side of it. So we
Gotcha.
all here,
Yeah.
we holding the line that we want to be proud of. You know what I'm saying?
My
And
Gotcha.
last
that's
question.
how we
My
go.
last question. Has there ever been a time in your career in law enforcement where you felt as though you probably weren't making a difference and probably felt discouraged, like, "Ah, I don't know if I made the right choice going down this road," or do you feel like what you've done in your service throughout the years was impactful?
Absolutely, absolutely. But in the very beginning, I didn't, right? Because I was just being a cop. I was just locking people up. I was just learning the job, and that's what I was just I was only focused, like I said, on bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm.
that's what I was taught. Those are the people that's going to try to hurt you. Those are the people that you got to worry about. So I had my blinders on. So my first few years, that's all I was focused on, bad guys. But I was missing out on, again, the beautiful people of this community.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Irvington, I was from North. So I didn't really embrace the community like that because I didn't grow up there. I was already an adult, had my
Mm-hmm.
own kids. So I was in Irvington, but I was in a very small part. Because most of I still hung out in North. I still hung out outside
Mm-hmm.
of Irvington because that was all that was just how, how I moved. So the only thing I did
Mm-hmm.
in Irvington was sleep and work. You know what I mean? I didn't do any, I started to play a little basketball, like going to the local park, and things like that. But for the most part, I was outside of Irvington. So like I said, I was more focused on just the bad guys. But as I got older and a little bit more mature, and now they gave me my zone. So I had a specific zone that I patrolled. So that was, my zone every day, pretty much. So as I'm riding around that zone, of course, I'm getting different calls about, guys hanging out or this or that. And then as I saw, those calls, it was less and less, or it was less where, let's say it was a particular area that they wasn't calling, but now
Mm-hmm.
they're calling on a new area because that crew or whoever moved from here to there because I made them uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, unfortunately, it became a problem for some other people, but the other people that it was a problem for was happy because it was like, oh, they ain't doing it, they ain't shooting dice in front of my door no more, they not,
Right.
Yeah.
drinking and smoking or whatever. So, but now I started to pay attention to, okay, I'm starting to make a difference, right? Two, I started to meet and talk to more people of the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? To know, hey, we're just trying to live. These are my kids, in case you see my sons, this is where they come
Mm-hmm.
from. You
Mm-hmm.
kick them
Mm-hmm.
behind, you do what you got to do, So I
Mm-hmm.
started feeling like, that I'm one being appreciated. Because if you're just dealing with
Mm-hmm.
criminals, they ain't gonna show you no love. And
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
that's just the nature of it, right? But when you start doing more community policing, when you really start to, go inside the stores, ask questions, hey, is everything going all right around here? Are you having any problems with anything, graffiti or smoking or whatever, kids running in, stealing, whatever the case may be. Now they're talking to you, they're letting you know what's going on. Well, I don't have that problem here, but down the street, my cousin, he owns that store. This is what he's experienced, so forth and so on. And now you get to
Mm-hmm.
see, understand, and now I go into the schools, right? I'm talking to the kids before they get out of school. Hey, I know y'all knuckleheads because y'all walk home. Y'all must be the ones graffitiing on the wall. Don't do that. That's somebody's store. They gotta pay money. And now I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking. Now some kids ain't gonna listen. Some kids
Mm-hmm.
just gonna ignore
Mm-hmm.
you. But then some you kind of catch and you say, you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna hang out with that kid no more because eventually he gonna get
Mm-hmm.
caught. Because the cops just came here, told me he know that we doing it. So it's just a matter
Mm-hmm.
of time before he catches us. So you know what? I'm gonna take a different route home, or I'm just gonna leave those kids alone, or I'm gonna do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So just through conversation, um, and like I said in the beginning, I just thought we was just spinning our wheels because it was just whatever was every day was the same. Just back then it was stolen
Yeah.
cars. It was you had the robbery boys that was coming out. So it was just every day it was just a grind. But then as things start to slow down, I really started to understand and really start to appreciate what it is that we do, the tactics
Mm-hmm.
behind it, the reason why, because I started asking questions for my supervisor. or why we do this, why we focusing on
Mm-hmm.
tickets, why we pulling over cars? Because a lot of crime back then came through cars. Guys
Mm-hmm.
with guns,
Yeah.
they didn't walk. They wasn't walking to go rob
Right.
people. They were in cars. So
Right.
we
Right.
constantly pulling cars over for fictitious plates or tinted windows or whatever. Now they're like, because we don't know every criminal in the car. We can't just sit back and
Yeah.
say we only want to pull over the criminals in the car. We don't have it like that, right? But we know criminals drive around in tinted windows, cars with tinted windows, right? That's just a fact because they don't want to be seen. But now
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other working people ride around with tents too. So we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
pull over
Yeah.
the wrong people sometimes, and most of
Mm-hmm.
the time we're gonna pull over the wrong people.
Wrong
But
person.
the
Yeah.
bad guys are getting it because they're like, hey, and then you go to Irvington with tinted windows, they're gonna pull you over. So they know it's more likely that they may get stopped on their way to doing something wrong. So they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna stay away from Irvington. So, but then I started to understand the reason because again, I'm getting cussed out every time I'm pulling over a car with tinted windows. And I was young, I had tints on my windows. But once I understood why we were doing it, again, I could write the ticket. I can give them a warning. Hey, listen, get the tints off your car. This is what we're focusing on. I'm warning you. I'm giving you a warning now. But if you're the same car, I'm going to write you the ticket next time. But whatever it was, we were still doing it with a purpose. It wasn't just we were just doing it just to be doing it. So in the beginning, yes. But as I got more in my career, I understood that absolutely it was worth it. We were definitely making a difference. And now I can proudly say in year 2025 in Irvington, we had one homicide for the whole entire year.
Mm.
Wow.
One.
Wow.
When
Wow.
we
What
had
did they average?
we was averaging at some years before when I first came on, we was averaging 25 to 30. And
Wow.
sometimes that
Okay.
was just for the summer months.
Mm.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
had one homicide and we went several years, but we didn't have a homicide during the whole entire summer. We might have had it in like a September or January
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. We totally turned that place around. And I say that
Mm.
because our policing strategies were different. And for the majority, I could proudly say we are policing ourselves. Our police department is majority us. It matches our
Mm-hmm.
community. So we police, we do it the way we would want to live ourselves. We want kids to be able to walk down the street and not be afraid that they're going to be killed, one, by just
Yeah.
some criminal, but also by us. We don't want
Mm-hmm.
nobody scared of us either. So we
Mm-hmm.
made a
Mm-hmm.
conscious effort to make sure that kids, when they see us, they ain't running. They not saying, "Oh, they go to the police, let me run," because those are the bad guys. No,
Yeah.
we want them waving at us. We want them saying hi. We want our officers pulling over, saying, knowing their names and things like that, because we understand it's up to us to change the culture, and
And that's so
because
important.
because we came from it, and we can, and I can get into one of your other questions that y'all guys had was why do now they go from civilian running police departments than officers, and that's enough. That's one of the reasons because
Why you have that? Okay.
now when you have somebody that's now from a public standpoint, now we have that view. You guys don't have the view of police officer. After I
No.
punch out, I'm a civilian again. So everything
Mm-hmm.
that y'all
Mm-hmm.
experience, I experience. I get pulled over if I'm driving home. My personal vehicle don't have no police lights on it. So if somebody racially profiles me, they don't know I'm a cop until they get to the car,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's interactions, there's different things that go on, prior to them knowing who I am, and I don't immediately identify myself because sometimes I just want to see how things are going to play out first. I know I have that
Gotcha.
card to pull out, but unless things
Mm-hmm.
are going crazy, unless they coming at me with their guns pointed, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm a director, I'm a police director. But other than that, if it's just again a traffic stop, first I want to see how you're going to talk to me. I want to see how
Mm-hmm.
you're going to
Mm-hmm.
explain yourself, and then we can go through things like that. But also the other thing The reason why they went for more civilians now is because a lot of municipalities want to change police departments. But when you have a civil service employee, basically, which would be the chief of police in normal circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
that chief of police is going to be there whoever the mayor is, they get voted out. So he's going to say, I ain't going to do what you want. If you want to change the community, you don't like how I'm running it, or if we got this whole racist community going on and I'm the one that's allowing it to fester, I don't have to change because you came, because you're now a Hispanic mayor or a Hispanic council or whatever. I'm going to keep it the good old boys way. But
Mm-hmm.
now when you can put your own in it, now they got to listen to you. Now you
So
can
the
now
chief.
regulate.
So let me ask you this. So the chief of police has that much power?
Yeah, because they run the police department. They are in charge
Wow.
of the police
I
department.
always thought, I don't know, I always thought the mayor had some sort of influence on that. Wow, I didn't know that.
No, they
Wow.
can't. No, the it's the law enforcement. They all they can do.
Mm.
They'll promote who they want to promote. But what if there's
Mm-hmm.
nobody there to promote? What if their
Yeah.
guy ain't don't have the opportunity? They're not in place. So a lot of them
Okay.
said, okay, we're gonna skip that. We just gonna put our guy at the top. So that's what they do now.
Mm.
They put their guy at the top and say, all right, now you become his boss. Now you can change the culture because now you're within that. Now you can start to change that culture.
Makes sense. That makes
So
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
that chief can either get on board or there can be some resistance, but now he has somebody day to day to be able to
Yeah.
see what's going on and again try to change things. Most, hopefully everybody just kind of come together and do it, but sometimes you have that resistance. And some communities, they're not giving it up.
Mm.
They're gonna do what they're gonna do. And they're like, hey, you're gonna be gone by the time you got 4 years and you out. I'm still gonna be here. I got
Mm.
15, 5 years left or whatever. I got 25 years and I ain't going nowhere until I age out. It all depends on what that chief wants to do. But
Yeah.
when you put your guy in it, now sometimes he may be like, you know what, I'm gonna cut out early because I ain't gonna deal with this guy. So now that gets people out the way, and you can create and become your community can become what you need it to be because you're gonna get blamed for it regardless. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. The
Mm. Yeah.
mayors get blamed for it, but they're like, well, I can't control the police department. I can't,
Gotcha.
I can't suspend nobody. I can't put charges on nobody. All that comes from within
So
that structure.
that's where you come in at.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes you, so you're the
That make a
bridge.
lot of sense. That make a lot of
Yes.
sense.
And the thing
So,
is, we have the mayor's vision, the director and myself. We understand what the mayor's vision is. So now our vision
Mm-hmm.
is to get everybody else to buy in,
mm-hmm.
get
Gotcha.
everybody else on board to pull everybody in and say, look, this is what we want our community to be. And this way, either you can get it or you don't. But now if you don't, then we got a place for you. But if you do, we just want to encourage it and we just want to keep it going. And so far it's been successful because everybody understands their mission. Everybody
So
understands
now
what they're there to do.
is that just this municipality, or is that something that's happening around the country that you know of, if you know of?
Yeah, it's happening around the country. Yeah, it's definitely is, and
Uh,
especially it's happening within in New Jersey for sure. A lot of
mm-hmm.
towns are starting to adopt directors. Are adding directors into these police departments. But those who don't have to, where they don't have no conflict or feel like there isn't going to be any, then they don't make no changes. But
Gotcha.
this way, it gives
Gotcha.
them an option that if there is some type of roadblock, they can say,
Yeah.
okay, then this is what how we're going to circumvent that. We're just going to put somebody in that place, that's going to get what we want. But if you're satisfied with what you have, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But some people just
Gotcha.
say, I just want to make sure I'm going to put my people there. So again, it can be ran the way I wanted to ran since I'm going to be the one they blame anyway.
This is crazy. Hey, Dane, we running out of time, but you gave us a lot to take in. We got to have you back on the show and go
Absolutely,
back more,
absolutely.
delve more into more situations because this is really helpful. And
Yeah,
I
it
know we
goes
have a lot
fast.
more questions we can get to. Yeah. So, we have a segment of the show where we do. It's called "Get Your Shit Together," And if you want to participate in that, we each tell somebody or we tell ourselves they need to get this shit together. So I don't know if Republican Lou want to set it off if he hasn't
Nah,
get this shit together.
the country been good to me. The society, the world, the internet. I ain't been on the internet, so I don't gotta blast nobody this week. So I really don't have one. I really don't have one this week.
Really?
Well,
Okay.
I have one for self. I'm not only did I get my shit together, but I'm getting my shit together. I've actually started this 16-hour intermittent fast where I only eat 8 hours a day and I fast 16 hours out the rest of the day. So I don't, my first meal of the day is 2 p.m. My last is at 10. So I don't eat again to 2 the next day. But I do just drink and exercise and work out. So I've been doing that for 3 weeks. The last 3 weeks, I got my shit together. I done lost 5 pounds, 5 pounds of body fat and gained muscle.
You lost that because you was hungry.
That's possibly so.
You starving yourself. But no, that's a good
so,
thing. I did the intermittent fasting. That's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing.
so Dane, brother Dane, you got to get your shit together.
Absolutely. My shit together. It actually is me. I just came off vacation, celebrating 30 years of marriage.
Oh
So it's
man,
definitely a
congratulations!
milestone. Thank you.
Congratulations!
Congrats.
But and I've been, really focused on my career, my second career now. But I
Mm-hmm.
really have to get my health together. So I definitely have to, get my shit together and really and it's funny that you brought up intermittent fasting because I am, reading and learning and looking to do that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I found a new doctor that does a little bit more holistic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to, again, just get my health together. I got a lot of things,
Absolutely.
I worked for a long time, put myself in a very comfortable position, but my body has paid for it. And now that I'm in this situation, now I can start focusing more on getting my body right and my health right because that's the
Absolutely.
true that's the true definition of wealth is a good
Mm-hmm.
functioning body because if you can have
Mm-hmm.
all the world, but if you stuck in the hospital bed, it ain't gonna do you no good. So
No
You
good.
can't spend it.
definitely have
You
to
can't spend it.
definitely got to get my shit together. And so I might be hitting you up, just
Yes.
to get some pointers and some
Yes.
experiences. But definitely, I'm
Absolutely.
putting myself on the hot seat to get my shit together.
Feel
Man,
free.
we're
That's
gonna
what we
hold you
do.
to it. We're gonna hold you
Yeah.
Thank
to
you.
it because
Appreciate
if
it.
you was
Appreciate
still
it.
on the,
So
if you
hopefully by the time we come back on the second episode, y'all invite me back. Hopefully I have
Yes.
some
because
things to share with y'all.
if you don't get it together, if you still on the force, ain't no way you was catching me.
Yo, nah, them days been gone, but trust me, when I was on the force, I was like a deer. I could chase anybody down. So yeah,
Mm,
those days are long gone, long gone. Like I said,
All
but
yeah,
right.
that's
All
what's good.
right.
But
So on
thank you,
that
man. I
note,
definitely
yeah,
appreciate you
absolutely,
having me, man.
absolutely, you
no
definitely be
problem.
I
back.
hope
You definitely be back.
I was
And
a
on that
good fit.
note, it's your man Jam C,
It's a favorite Republican. We
and
out.
we got the one and only Dane, and we've gone vocal, y'all. Peace.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Peace.
That was